From the very most southern point of the CONCACAF region, represented in the 2019 Champions League, the very most northern point. Temperatures going from 70 degrees Fahrenheit down into the teens. It is a scarf and jacket-clad Toronto FC fan base hoping tonight, like Barcelona a couple years ago, a drastic deficit in the Champions League could be overcome. CAI of Panama, the opposition, have put together an incredible performance in Panama last week and lead 4-0 as we welcome you into the second leg of the round of 16 in Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League. Mike Watts with you tonight. 17 degrees Fahrenheit. There will be no snow, no sleet, no rain, and a little crosswind of about 10 miles an hour will make it feel even cooler. There's been talk about how pitch conditions in Panama could have affected the opening leg, how the temperature could affect this leg, but what you can say now is that CAI of Panama, who have a 4-goal lead and in the upper right corner, are strongly favored against Toronto to carry through into the quarterfinals, where they would see their Sporting Kansas City or Toluca of Mexico. Toluca making a managerial change this week, trail in that series 3-0 as they return home, as Sporting Kansas City absolutely dominant in the opening leg of the round of 16 at Children's Mercy Park. As you take a look at where exactly we are in the province of Ontario in Canada, it's nearly 4,000 kilometers away from where this round of 16 began in Panama in the 2019 Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League. You look back to last week, and at all levels, it was outworked, outclassed. Toronto was drubbed by CAI of Panama. Independiente scoring in the opening 10 minutes and then simply running away with the game. As we saw Anil Ayarza score first, Omar Brownie scored one of the great goals we've seen in this tournament in recent years, and 2 goals in the second half by Iver Romish could prove to be the final nails in the coffin here. If CAI scores just 1 goal on the road, the away goal margin would make it such that Toronto would need to score 6 to carry through into the quarterfinal to take on either Toluca or Sporting Kansas City. For Toronto, if you score 4 goals and keep a shutout, the element that Greg Vanney said coming into the stadium would be the trickiest part, keeping a shutout. You could send this not to extra time, but directly to penalties. And so a 4-0 result would be enough to at least see this into a, well, what would be a mirror image of how things ended last year for Toronto FC in the CONCACAF Champions League. Devastating defeat to Chivas of Guadalajara in the Champions League final. So can Toronto find a way to steer the Titanic away from this Panamanian iceberg, or will CAI continue what's actually been a very good run for Panama in Champions League over the last 3 years? Will they carry that over into the quarterfinal, where they could potentially see either Sporting Kansas City or Toluca? It would be a tough draw, to say the least, for either side when you look at the grander scheme of the Champions League tournament this year. There were plenty of upsets in the opening round. Tigres plays later tonight against Saprissa, with the Costa Rican side holding a 1-goal advantage from the opening leg at Estadio Ricardo Saprissa in Costa Rica. There are plenty of worried fan bases that they won't make quite the run that they had anticipated. For Toronto, it's a group that opens their MLS season in half a week's time, as they'll open up against Philadelphia Union. For CAI of Panama, their 7-game unbeaten streak ended midweek against a perennial Champions League side, Tauro, in the Liga Panamania football. Those puffy jackets are kind enough indoors, but the temperatures have dipped into the teens Fahrenheit. A 4-goal deficit for Toronto. Will the Panamanians see this out and move on to the quarterfinal? We'll find out over the next 90 minutes at BMO Field in the round of 16 of Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League. It is chilly, and it is the first competitive match at BMO Field this year. It's a cold field, one that'll play a little bit slower than anticipated, as both teams would make clear from their training sessions yesterday. Toronto making 3 changes to their lineup as Ashton Morgan and Terrence Boyd are both available off the bench. Griffin Dorsey, who made his professional competitive debut, left out of the 18 by Greg Vanney. Jordan Hamilton, Nick DeLeon, and Ayo Akinyola move into the starting 11 as Greg Vanney tries to jumpstart a group that in a lot of ways left so much on the table, including Terrence Boyd's 33rd minute, a moonbound, a missed penalty that could have leveled the match and given a crucial away goal to Toronto. It wasn't meant to be, and instead they're going to be fighting from a very deep position in this round of 16 matchup. And well, Cholo Torres meeting with Michael Bradley and our officials. Juan Calderon of Costa Rica, our referee in the middle. Mora and Fernandez will work the touch lines in from St. Kitts and Nevis. You'll find our 4th official, George Malcolm. Can Alex Bono slow down this CAI side? Look at the starting 11 for the side from Charea in Panama. Francisco Perlo hit all the right buttons the first time around, and as such, he's not going to make any changes this time around. Jorman Aguilar and Omar Brownie were fantastic. Romy Chivet had absolutely no comparison on the wing from Toronto, whether it be up front or behind. He was all over the place, and ultimately his 2 goals in the second half were deserved byproducts of a very strong performance in Panama. The available subs for both sides: for Toronto, Jay Chapman featured last time out. So too did Schaffelberg and Boyd, both as forwards. Could be attacking options along with Endo once this gets either closer or falls further away, while Alexi Korpa has his 100th Panamanian appearance over the midweek. 4 goals down. Can Toronto find a miracle tonight north of the any point in the CONCACAF Champions League in 2019 and take on CAI of Panama? Hope to continue Panama's strong run of late in this tournament. You can see there's sand popping out of the field as players both run and push the ball along it, something that players from both sides made note of in press conferences yesterday at BMO Field. The turf surface in Panama was noted as definitely slowing the game down a little bit. Toronto allowing this CAI side to counterattack at will. Simply no match. And they played, by Greg Vanney's estimation, the Toronto coach, right into the Panamanians' hands. Back comes Osorio. Slipping through Bradley, comes out to Morrow, who's crossing. And this ball skied up and over. Early opportunity for Nick DeLeon. Morrow had a better look at that than Bradley did, smartly allowing it through, and DeLeon had all kinds of time if he wanted to settle that down. Brownie fouled. Oh, there's the master tactician. Francisco Perlo, his 3rd managing job in Panama. And his 4-0 win marks the biggest margin of victory by a Panamanian side over an MLS or Mexican opponent. Gonzalez. Overrun by Hamilton. Auro. Morrow. Bounce out to Delgado. Nice handle of the ball so far by Toronto. DeLeon. Osorio. Push down and a late whistle. Omar Brownie running into Osorio. And a free kick. Dangerous position right call, even if it came after an additional dribble by Brownie. What an all-world goal he scored in Panama last week. Swerving effort across Alex Bono's face, swerving into side net. Laurent Simon has scored some fantastic free kicks in years past. Looks like he'll be the man here. Jose Guerra setting the wall. Simon, who was victimized in the opening leg. It'll be Laurent Simon going for goal. Goes over the top. That deflected off the wall. Just trying to curl that inside the left post. It'll be Bradley in the 5th minute on the corner. Bradley steered out by Mavinga. Brownie into space. Panama trying to counter. Aguilar run down by Mavinga. The Toronto staff noted it. They would have loved to put some water down on this ground, but with temperatures around 15 degrees, even with the beneath the surface heating apparatus that exists at BMO Field, that water could still easily freeze. And as a result, it's going to play a little bit slow tonight. Finding his way through. Slipped once, second effort, curling, and a nice save by Guerra. Morrow had gone for it, and some additional after effects for Guerra on the contact by Osorio. Well, the flag goes up for offside. The argument has to be that Akinola affected play by his positioning. Surely Morrow was not off, and Guerra remains down. Another look at the creation here. And Osorio running into Guerra, trying to put his head to this, and his shoulder drilling Guerra square in the head. And Fran Perlo's hoping he doesn't need to make an early move here to supplement his goalkeeper. Osorio had already picked up a bit of a knock just a couple moments ago. Guerra will continue, and for Toronto, you'd have to say, despite not having a goal, it's been a strong 7-minute start. Delgado. De Leon, nice touch around. De Leon looking for Hamilton and cleared out. Negrete. Corner, Toronto. Long run for Torres, the 40-year-old center back. Bradley. Popped up towards Simon. Bounces out. Akinola. Delgado. Bradley. Struck off the head of Hamilton. And bouncing down, Osorio in pursuit and carried away by Cordoba. Bolivar. Aurel goes up. Simon recovers for Toronto. De Leon making a run. Aurel. Aurel looking for Akinola. This stays in at the byline. Ball crossed. Just too high. Narrowly missed. Could have been a fine start for Toronto in the first 10 minutes. And Torres has not had a great start for Independiente. Morrow is arriving at the back post. Pense. Delgado. Canola. Out by Torres. Out before Morrow get a touch. Morrow for Bradley. Throw Toronto. All about managing the game. One goal at a time, Craig Vanny said. Mavinga. Toronto does have some semblance of a history coming back from this kind of deficit in the competition previously. Brownie able to take it from Morrow. The 2009 Voyageurs Cup. In the 11th minute, it's still 4-0 to CAI in the aggregate. All goals scored their home venue last week. Salas and Simon closes down. Mavinga. Osorio pivoting for Morrow. Mavinga under pressure. And he turns away from Bolivar. De Leon making his Toronto debut. Bradley there to backstop it, sidestepping. And down goes De Leon. Turned around by Ayarza. And a free kick to TFC. Guerra's already taken a knock to the head in this game. And he's made a pretty decent save as well. It's Bradley behind the ball for Toronto. One goal for Toronto. Maybe they could start believing. There's a route back into this. Bradley chipping. Simon tapping it across. Cleared by Ayarza. Kept alive. Mavinga. Comes out to Morrow. Mavinga. Too high for Osorio. well done to keep possession. And play will come back. It was advantage played. Delgado spun out before that ball was curled into the attacking third. And some additional extracurriculars. De Leon being called over by Juan Calderon. Sive got thrown down, twice a goal scorer in the opening leg. No booking though for De Leon. Aganola comes to the ball. And he is fouled from behind. And yet again, there's a little more involved here. Gonzalez in the midst of it all. Delgado. Auro. Auro dipping into space. Bolivar closing him down. Delgado. Auro. Auro. Like he got a good piece of the ground. Tried to swing his foot through that. It's dropped into space. Ayarza coming in behind. Aguilar was carrying ahead. And Aguilar bowling over Simon. Canola. Pense. There's Simon. 5 recovery tackles in the opening leg, which would be problematic, I should say, given the nature of how CAI attacked in that opening leg. He and Chris Mavinga spent a lot more time on their heels than perhaps they anticipated the opening leg. Canola looking for Osorio. Back out to Bradley. Can play this toward the corner. Auro for De Leon. Nive and Auro. Delgado. And the foul. That's Hamilton. Here's Guerra, previously at Tauro, didn't play at all, including in the Champions League. A 2-year starter, Santa Emma, and that saw him hot commodity on the last transfer window. Cordoba. Brownie. Gonzalez. Aguilar stabbed away by Mavinga. De Leon, that's clever. Drawing finally a little bit of a cheer out of this chilly crowd that hasn't had much to get on their feet for yet. No Josie Altidore tonight. And this attack find its wheels without him. Morrow. Morrow crossing. Header is in! That's a first! Hamilton climbs onto the board for Toronto Football Club. 1-0 to TFC. Hamilton pulling down the middle of the field, almost had a blocker in Akinola. And then a looping header over the top of Guerra. Morrow, the assist. And in the first 20 minutes, precisely what Greg Vanney was hoping for, that first goal. Breathe a little life into Toronto. Hamilton, 7 goals in his MLS career. Has scored significant goals in cup competitions previously as well. In his 19th minute goal, the first tally for Toronto. So they now need to make up a 3-goal deficit. And Auro is fouled from behind. A TFC Academy guy, Hamilton, arriving in 2011, playing all the way up to the national team, going through the youth development side for Canada. Local kid out of Scarborough. And now a free kick here for Toronto. Bradley's got a plan. Bradley away from Simon. And struck on the first time over Guerra and out. That's Auro, the Brazilian, who was aggressive here. Yve lost his mark a bit. And Auro drilling this just high of the crossbar. One nothing to Toronto. It's now 4-1 Independiente in the aggregate. Aside from in Panama, 4-0 win in the opening leg. Akinola had held up play for a moment. A little frustration from Negrete, who thought he'd been fouled. Again, if CAI scores, Toronto would need 6 to overcome it, given the away goal. Toronto scores 4 and keeps CAI scoreless. This would go to penalties. Ball left off for Akinola. Hamilton's had a really inspired start. Dumped in for Morrow. Lofted off Bense. Yve. Turned over to Osorio. Osorio quite get there. Torres tapping it away. Yve in tight quarters. Auro. This Panamanian side is sheltered in. Clearly they know they've got plenty of room for error. They really haven't done much. Delgado over Hamilton. Morrow! And Guerra comes out, able to collect it. And the slide in from Morrow, he's barking at the official after having slid in. Did well to get around that first mark and came in after the goalkeeper had already come over onto the ball, and the trainer's coming out to look at Guerra now. Cordoba was the player who had been right there with Morrow pointing down and appealing for a foul. De Leon, 7 years a DC United man, so don't adjust the tuning on your screen. As He's moved on to Toronto this year. And for the second time, Guerra took a shoulder to the head and has now taken what appears to be a cleat just above the socks around the knee from Justin Morrow. Guerra's gotten back up on his feet. Another look at Morrow's initial assist. Hamilton dropping a header just beneath the crossbar. And the local boy has given Toronto 1 in their pursuit, the necessary 4. Would put Toronto on level terms in this round of 16 tie. Winner of this would move on to the quarterfinal. Kansas City holds a 3-0 advantage against Toluca. Mexican side replacing their manager this week, replacing one of their all-time club legends in the process. Played long in behind Hamilton. Osorio looking for Morrow. Morrow! Ball knocked down. Guerra got enough. It's cleared away from the line by Torres. Morrow looking for just that little bit of composure to see that through. Simon trying to find Osorio, last year's Golden Boot winner in this tournament. That's touched by Bradley. Well, Morrow has featured much more offensive play in this leg than in the opening leg. Converted wingback playing up on the left-hand wing and slipped that off the heel, was looking to go between the legs of the goalkeeper Guerra. Mavinga will trail back. You couldn't ask for a better 25, 26 minutes for Toronto than they've put together so far. You'd like to have another goal, given the amount they've held the ball and the number of times they've been able to build into the 18-yard box. But they haven't given CAI more than one sniff on the counter to this stage. De Leon. Sought out Auro. Auro wins it back. Delgado. Osorio. Osorio trying to get it back from Hamilton. Was cut out. And well done by Delgado to win it back for Toronto. Good chance at numbers here. Played on the ground. Hamilton was waiting for that to come to him. And instead, Mavinga reverses all the way to Bono. A reporter in Panama asking if overconfidence was the issue for Toronto in the opening leg. Something that Greg Vanney denied. That perhaps they weren't quite ready coming out of their preseason for the tempo of the game. And that the torpid approach they took in their passing made it easy for Panama to stretch out Toronto. As the game wore along, they pulled further and further away. Even Toronto's own social media would argue it would take a miracle to win now in the round of 16. They've got one. They need 3 more. It's taken by Bense. And Delgado gets dumped. No simulation here. Uve. Arm bar into the back. Bradley. Steered wide of Hamilton. for Akinola. He's chasing Guerra, who lines this upfield. Bradley's got ideas. Bradley for Osorio, brought down Hamilton. Handle deflect wide. The burgeoning play and come out to Brownie. Brownie gets tugged down on both shoulders by Hamilton. Plenty of defenders all around. No card brandished by the referee. And Toronto on the ball again. Ball for Hamilton, lifted. Guerra makes the catch. Brownie. Morrow. And now Mavinga. There's a ton of room here on the right. De Leon, who's had a nice start tonight. Osorio. De Leon. Delgado. And now Bradley. Auro's space being closed down, but De Leon trying to slip in behind. Back behind Bolivar. Osorio. Hold up play, the turn, Hamilton! And Guerra able to knock it down, and it's cleared by Independiente. And taken right back by Mavinga and to the feet of Bradley. Great half an hour. Bono, that was a bit slow. Bradley recovers. And here comes Toronto building again. Osorio catching Ayarza entirely out of sorts. So hold up nicely for Auro. Osorio. Bolivar slowing this down. Aguilar hasn't had much to do. Hamilton's got the lone goal in this second leg. 1-0 to Toronto. The Panama side, CAI, 4-1 in the aggregate. Akinola lobbed in by Bradley. Delgado closed down by Bolivar. Auro lifting, Hamilton! And Guerra able to get over and slap it aside. Nearly his second headed goal, rather, in this second leg. That had eyes for the post. And Guerra just able to get one hand to it before it snuck inside. Thrown in by Bense, one of the new signings for Champions League, acquired by Independiente. Side that watched their 7-game unbeaten streak end midweek with a nearly entirely rotated lineup. Morrow. Delgado. Bradley reversing. Simon. Bradley. De Leon, second look. Yve trying to take over. You want to talk about an entirely different heat map this time around, Yve. Ball hit long. Morrow heading it out in front. He was offside. Well, it's not the arm that you should be looking at. The arm is irrelevant. And with that being the case, that's a pretty tight call. Not that it seems to have mattered in the grand scheme of things. Snapped out toward Bradley. That got up, hit him on the hand. They'll have to continue on. Bradley circled around, recovered by Brownie, taken by Delgado, and now Osorio. Bradley right down the center. De Leon. Auro. Auro serving for Hamilton. Headed away on the dive by Torres. Turned over to Osorio, and Torres will fly this out. And this will go off the bicep, shoulder area of Simon. The Panamanians treading water. Carrying 36 minutes in the book. Lifted ahead for Aguilar. And Bono. Snap it back out. Simon. Bradley. He's done a good job of orchestrating on the night. And Delgado have had a much firmer grip on the midfield in this game last Tuesdays. De Leon. Auro. Bradley, De Leon on the combination. De Leon keeping by Yve. Mavinga. Mavinga! Slamming it wide of the post. Well, it's just another look that Toronto's offered. Gonzalez. Bono calling for it with Aguilar and Simon. Closest accompaniment. Lofted up, Simon. Holding down Aguilar. Played to Bolivar. Bolivar! And a touch by Bono to steer it aside. First good chance for Independiente of the match comes in the 39th minute. And Bono stopping what surely would have found its way through without his interference. Would have been a crucial road goal for Independiente. This is Gonzalez. Bradley. Away from Gonzalez. Bolivar recycling. Come all the way to Aguilar. Trouble brewing in midfield. And here comes Brownie. Yves. He loses his footing. Simon happy to take over. And as the pendulum swung back in Toronto's favor, for Akinola, he's able to come back and take on again. Delgado, room to exploit. Osorio. He goes down. Thought Bolivar had fouled him. Instead, it's Aguilar. And Mavinga picks up a big chunk of the field. Clears the ball out to touch. We've gone 40 minutes now. Toronto's clawed one back. They need 4 at minimum. Potentially advance. Bense, Bolivar cedes possession back to the Canadians. Delgado, Osorio turns Morrow all the way around. Pull this down in the corner. Osorio brought down. And a quick restart. Bradley lofting, a couple players up for it. Cleared by Torres and a foul by Auro. Still staking his claim in this argument. That may have been a bit easy from Yves. Lucky Delgado was down a moment ago, but has gotten back to his feet. Do wonder if there's something to that. Here's Hamilton on the ball, the goal scorer. Osorio, Hamilton. Akinola is well offside. He's just a dummy. Ball for Morrow. Bradley, De Leon. 3 games today in the Champions League in CONCACAF. Houston Dynamo, winners over Guastatoya in the opening leg. We'll try and see that out at BBVA Compass Stadium in Houston, Texas. And later on, Tigres in Monterrey down 1-0 to Saprissa. Been a combative rather week for Tuca Ferretti. Hoping he can see his side through. Aguilar helping to create. Cordoba run down. Gonzalez. And that's ushered out by Delgado. There's been a ton of room for this Toronto midfield to run around. And they've had a good number of looks in this opening half. A lot of talk about efficiency this week if Toronto were to get back into this. If they can pitch a clean sheet in this opening half and get at least this one goal out of it. Doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility the way this has gone. Toronto could try and steal this. This ball lofted up, punched away by Guerra. Osorio, De Leon, Delgado, Auro. De Leon onside on the turn, just over Akinola. Poor clearance, Mavinga. Mavinga striking. With all those numbers forward, to wonder if that was the best option. 2 minutes of added time will separate us from the half. Gonzalez a little shaken up a moment ago. Delgado. De Leon trying to surge forward. Ive to ground. Torres. De Leon. Auro. A late slide, and Toronto pushing into the attacking half. Osorio. Well, the wily veteran may have made a bit of a mistake here. Osorio, not enough on it to find Morrow. Perhaps on a slicker surface, that could have found its way through. Wasn't hit entirely right in the first place. Bradley. Finally, Osorio recovers 30 seconds before the halftime whistle. Toronto would like another, half their deficit from the first leg. Akinola trying to turn Torres, chipped out. Corner shortly before halftime for Toronto. If you're Independiente, defend this corner, go off to the locker room up 3. Ball off Simon, attempted bicycle kick, and that's a dangerous jump. Mavinga and Bense are the ones who initially made contact. We've reached halftime in Toronto. Absolutely dominant first half by Toronto, and I'm not sure Independiente's really got a problem with it. They conceded possession. They left large gaps in midfield, tried to close down once the ball was inside 25 yards from goal. And while Toronto does find one in the 19th and came close to a second multiple times, Independiente will be just fine, taking their 4-1 aggregate lead into the dressing room and warm up for a moment's time. Halftime at BMO Field in Toronto. The score in the second leg in this round of 16 tie, Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League. Toronto FC 1, Independiente 0. Round of 16, Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League, leg number 2. Onto the field came CAI of Panama with a 4-0 advantage from the opening leg. Toronto FC hoping, dreaming of a miracle comeback, one that they would hope they could pitch a shutout and find 4 at home and turn the tide. All Toronto in this one. Statistics will bear it out. The eye test certainly in the same vein. This in the opening moments. Hamilton ripping a shot. Guerra able to save. Guerra would take a shoulder to the face from Osorio. This would ultimately bring him down for a couple moments. Not any longer than that. Akinola knocking a ball along the byline, just too high for Morrow. And you felt that Toronto was closing in the opening 20 minutes to a goal. But Osorio looking in behind for Morrow. Curling run. And the looping header by Jordan Hamilton. And the Toronto area native gives a breath of fresh air to Toronto from 4 goals down to 3. It's the opening goal of this second leg in the 19th minute. And a nice finish by Hamilton, to be sure. A lot of room left open in the midfield throughout. This was a great chance at a second for Morrow. Guerra coming off his line. It's his left boot. It's able to click this ball away. And then the ball cleared away from the post by Cholo Torres, the aged center back. Osorio slipping through. Another save by Guerra. This was Jordan Hamilton that had found his way in behind off the turn. And Auro working from the right-hand side, lofting, and a great save by Guerra again. He comes up with 3 or 4 highlight reel stops in the opening 45 minutes. This another header from Hamilton, who's played quite well after not featuring in the opening leg between these two sides. The best opportunity by Bolivar comes about 35 minutes into the game. Ball that nearly curled inside the post, if not for Alex Bono. Could have been that crucial road goal that would have made Toronto's mountain 2 goals taller. As we look at halftime statistics, what you won't see here, 15 degrees, a lot of extra layers worn, and Toronto could have easily had 75 or 80% of possession. I don't think anybody would have blinked. They have 10 shots in the opening half, 3 good saves by Guerra and 1 by Bono have kept the scoreline at 1-0 in favor of Toronto. And as expected, not only has the field played a little bit slow, but this has really been a half-field game with TFC holding so much of the possession. In the end, 17 fouls in the opening half. We're 45 minutes down, 45 to play. The second leg of the round of 16. It's Toronto 1, Independiente 0. In the aggregate, Independiente leads 4-1. Now comes Guerra. Can he keep 3 goals out of his own net? Can Bono keep a shutout and give Toronto FC a chance? Welcome back to the second leg of the round of 16 in Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League. In 2019, the upset of the tournament so far, sprung by that man and his team, Fran Perlo, 4-0 over Toronto in Panama. Their first ever appearance in this tournament. Could they knock Greg Vanney's side out entirely a year after they fell in penalties after drawing 3-3 in the aggregate with Chivas in the Champions League final? Romish Ive find his footing in this second half. Can Jonathan Osorio find the goal-scoring touch? Michael Bradley begin to avenge last year's disappointment. Underway second half. Dominant first half performance by Toronto Football Club. No question. Nearly 70% possession. They scored in the 19th minute. 3 good saves by Jose Guerra. No changes for either side at halftime. Booted out by Cholo Torres, a veteran of 35 caps for Panama. Delgado. Bradley. Osorio. Hamilton. And a hold-up play. The other way. Aguilar. And recovered by Toronto. A lot of pride in the Panamanians for the work they put together in the opening leg. Said nothing had been won yet, as Hamilton steers this out toward Gonzalez. And a lot of sacrifices in their minds have been justified by that 4-0 victory. About 40 kilometers to the west of Panama City. Throw for CAI. They missed the Apertura playoff last year. They were in the relegation race coming into the new year. But a great start in the Panamanian League has seen them scorch up the standings. That appears to not be a concern any longer for the group. But you think about what Panamanian sides have done in recent years. Arabe Anido twice beating Rayados, both at home and in Monterrey a couple years ago. And Tauro and FC Dallas in 2018. Certainly the upset in the round of 16 of that tournament. Osorio taking a little more horizontal freedom here. Kept alive, if only for a moment, by Delgado. So sneak over to Delgado, leading for De Leon. Bouncing ball is cleared. That would have gone right into the mitts of Guerra. Auro. Ive got off the hand. Akinola. Fans still hopping around. There were, to be frank, far more fans than I had anticipated staying in the stands at halftime. Here's Canada is not overly worried about these 15-degree temperatures tonight. Vinga, that's slow, but Bono back up the gut. Osorio charging onward. The overlap from Morrow. The idea was good. There's a loud contingent of Toronto fans that made the trip to Panama last week. A bit short of 50 fans in the stands. This ball through offside. It was Aguilar, who returned from Portugal. In the second division, he managed an 11-goal season. He's got a double-digit scoring season in Panama as well before that move. Akinola. And Torres slipped it off his foot. Simon. Torres here, a thumbs up. Don't want to blame the guy at 35 years old back in 2012, 2013 when he had surgery on his right knee. He hung him up. Anything but that. Yeah, career renaissance. Osorio dispossessed. Gonzalez concedes a corner to Toronto. That is an entirely self-inflicted wound by Gonzalez. Bradley for Mavinga, punched away. Guerra snapped back in by Delgado. Simon. Delgado, Simon. Neither player overly comfortable from that position. De Leon. Yve, whose speed absolutely killed Toronto in the first leg. Morrow wins it back. Delgado. De Leon settles, and well taken by Ayarza. As far as Bradley. Torres bouncing. Simon. That stayed in on the line. Delgado. Good number of attacking options on the bench for Toronto. Problem is none have really made a large imprint for Toronto in the past. Auro pushing Bense. Auro. It is a corner for Toronto FC. Auro popped up, header down, not enough on it from Mavinga. And Akinola, hands over his face, may have had a cleaner look at that after the velocity had been taken off on the deflection. Yeah, and that was Mavinga's ball. Bolivar. Mavinga. Sidestepping one. Now winning Aguilar. Chance for the Reds. Push forward. Akinola showing off good speed. Looking for Hamilton. Bounces down near Torres. Akinola, there's contact there against Morrow. Akinola one move. Bradley slicing it back. Simon. Here's Zauro. Delgado. Header, save, Guerra. Hamilton once again tried to sneak that inside the post. Guerra's made 4 stops now. If Independiente does get through, it'll certainly be on Guerra's coattails. Hamilton scored in the 19th. Toronto has had 3 additional chances stopped by Guerra since that time, and 1 prior. Hamilton has played very well. Auro gets the flyby. Delgado. Auro sneaking out. De Leon. Akinola. Osorio. Osorio again. And cleared out by Cordoba. Mavinga backstopping for Toronto. Oh, look at Mavinga go. Sliding it ahead, and Cordoba allows this to run out. Well, nice bit of skill there from the Frenchman. Foul is CAI. Thought they had gotten out the other way. Marky Delgado has another flesh wound. Bono. The longer this strings out, the cagier Toronto is going to get. 5, 6 good looks in this. And the efficiency of opportunity has not been there. Get them back in this 2-legged affair yet. De Leon sees daylight. Crossing too high for Akinola. Auro. Serve toward Auro, won by Yve. A slide, and the offside flag had been raised. CAI trying to act as the third Panamanian side to stun the favorite in the opening round of this tournament in the last 4 years. De Leon takes the contact, fires, and Guerra caught that on the fly. Sort of bodied up Yve, went for the corner. We've gone an hour now. Toronto needs 3 to send it to penalties. If Independiente scores, they would need 5 to overcome the deficit. So Independiente has 2 goals of margin to spare at this stage. To take on either Toluca or Sporting Kansas City in the next round. Alro won the header. Ball never stopped. Ball will take over again. Alro kept that in play. De Leon. Delgado. Can Toronto find a second? Will themselves back into this. Morrow bouncing toward the corner flag. It'll be a corner for the Reds. Bradley, Guerra comes out, Simon bounces and comes right to Guerra. And Torres is grabbing his hamstring and remains down. Fell really nicely for Simon. There's a lot of traffic there. Well, here comes the first move for Toronto. Terrence Boyd will come in. He missed a penalty just over 30 minutes into the first leg that could have leveled the affair. Would have changed the whole tenor of this quite a bit. And Akinola is done. Will pick this up. Osorio fell down. Bolivar, Gonzalez, Aguilar. Brownie swarmed. Advantage played to Toronto. Howrow. Release Morrow here up the left instead. Header back. Bradley. De Leon. De Leon crossing, and Torres nods it down. This will bounce off of De Leon and out for a goal kick. Positive debut. You'd have to say 2 of the 3 moves made by Greg Vanney moving into this second leg have paid off obvious dividends. De Leon, Jordan Hamilton. Akinola has largely been a wash. extends his hand up, wants the ball. Osorio. Auro middle of the field, but Bradley will carry on. Auro. Eric Zavaleta. Josie Altidore. Obviously, the changes for Toronto over the offseason were vast. You think back into the middle of January. It was January 22nd. Independiente's management was quoted as saying, look at Toronto's world-class players, Giovinco and Altidore. Ball slipped ahead. Guerra would have had that with ease. Bense kicked it away. Well, Altidore hasn't featured. Ball ahead, De Leon. Ball bouncing. Comes out as far as Auro and gets cleared. And of course, Giovinco moving on to the Middle East. No Victor Vasquez. Gregory Vanderweil, who was supposed to be part of this endeavor this year, gone. Delgado sprinting after this, and cleared again by Negrete. It's for Independiente to settle this down and maybe break off an attack. Yve, Hamilton's got the lone goal in this game. Independiente has a 3-goal aggregate advantage. Bradley serving upfield. Hamilton looking back, couldn't will that call into existence. Simon, brutal header. Brownie is through. Brownie, Bono, Brownie around, he scores! And the road goal for Independiente may well seal their pass into the quarterfinal. Bradley shown a yellow card for dissent. Make no question, Simon should have done better there. But was Brownie behind? He was in the attacking half, it appears, when that was struck. Mavinga's late slide, not enough. His second goal in the round of 16. And now Toronto needs 5 to get through with this away goal. Omar Brownie in the 67th minute. Meanwhile, Michael Bradley, a yellow card. Aguilar is asking to be taken off. At this stage, he is essentially leaving his teammates on a 10-man island. This will bounce down. Cleared up the line, but not out. Aguilar is taking a knee at midfield. This is struck out of play a long way out. Frustration showing here. Look at the play that came shortly before. Ball was lobbed across midfield. Ruben Barrow is waiting to come on. Looks like he'll make his second appearance as a substitute in as many games. Independiente. Taylor comes out. Laro on. 5 goals in 20 minutes. It's all that could save Toronto now. Delgado. It's a long run. De Leon got there. De Leon. Corner, Toronto. A lot of if, ands, and buts. Toronto could splay out. Auro. Caught by Guerra. And Mavinga knocking him over. Sale pop up. It's Mavinga coming in middle of your screen. In the process, Guerra with the top of Bense. It'll be that missed penalty in the first leg that could have leveled things in the first half, giving Toronto the aggregate lead with the away goal. How could things have changed? De Leon loses this out of play. And what if Toronto had entered with the same roster that they thought they'd have on January 1st? Delgado run into by Yve. Ball will find Boyd. U.S. International. Brownie thought he had gotten by. It'll be the first time he had gotten by Simon. Yve lifting. Caught by Bono. Bradley, Delgado. De Leon. Cleared as far as Auro. Auro coming on. Chance to pop this up. Good enough from Delgado. Basa Endo. On for TFC. The referee won't allow him on yet. Boyd. And Drew Moore is waiting to come on now as well. This will be the second and third sub for Toronto. Osorio comes out. Four goals last year in Champions League, including some all-timers for Toronto. But he'll come up empty in 2019. Drew Moore in his age 35 season, coming on in the final 15 minutes, replacing Auro. Endo. Bradley. Delgado. Boyd wants it over the top. Lifted up. Morrow. Endo. Kick save. Guerra. Intercepted by Simon. De Leon. Endo. Delgado. For Endo. Bouncing toward Morrow. Bradley. Endo. Endo goes down. Free kick, Toronto. Endo's provided a nice spark. It's been a couple years since he's gotten a chance. TFC, playing for the USL Championship side last year in Toronto. Going on loan overseas. Former first-round pick in the MLS Super Draft. That wasn't Guerra, but rather Torres that stopped the previous effort by Endo. Simon and Endo standing behind the ball here. It'll be Endo into the wall, comes to Simon. And Endo can't carry the other way. Barrow. Brownie around Moore. Brownie all the way. Brownie trying to finish off of Bono's chest. And smashing off the boards behind the goal in frustration. 24-year-old Panamanian Youth International has had a nice performance in this tournament. He's got a lot to be pleased about. There are a handful of players, Independiente, that may have made a bit of a name for themselves to a wider audience. Endo. Morrow looking for Boyd. Steered aside by Bense. Barring a 5-goal comeback now, CAI will move on to face Sporting Kansas City, hold a 3-0 lead in their tie, or Toluca of Mexico. Endo. Bolivar. Endo. Simon. Endo. Offside flag is up on Paro. Ronnie fouled. This is Simon, who would probably like to forget this tournament. Wasn't his best first foray in for Toronto. A lot of fans know him for just how well he played in Montreal. He was the captain for expansion LAFC. One of the poignant pieces of that show. Bob Bradley and Laurent Simon. And he moved on to France middle of last year in the summer transfer window. Furio Avila will come on for Independiente. A defensive move. Focused on seeing this out. And Ayarza, who scored the opening goal in the 9th minute. Smoke had just barely settled. 9th minute goal. Brownie a moment ago. This is the save by Bono, and then he would express his displeasure to the innocent Abboard. I'm not sure Brownie's the most ecstatic man in all of BMO Field right now. Alexi Korpa is set to make his 2019 Champions League debut. This would exhaust the final of the 6 subs between the two sides. Brownie's done. His goal took all the life out of Toronto. Bradley. Endo. Following Negrete. Well, Negrete's got a lot more to promote now. He was on Panamanian television a couple weeks ago, explaining the importance of the match. It's a stadium that holds about 5,000. In Panama, mostly filled for the round of 16. There's going to be more people, I would imagine, making their way. Estadio Sanchez next week for the quarterfinal. Right now, it does look like Sporting Kansas City would be there, and Peter Vermeese's side didn't come out playing some of their best ball. That'd be a scary fact for everybody else. They absolutely pulled Toluca apart for 90 minutes. Omar Brownie, 67th, Hamilton 19th. It's 5-1 in favor of CAI in the aggregate. Delgado, header looping over the crossbar. Hamilton almost had a carbon copy of his first goal on the night. Ball struck forward, come all the way to Bono. Right back out to Yve. Yve running into Simon. Torres. Well, you don't blame him for trying, do you? He's been a professional in Panama since before Y2K. I want to talk about a guy who's been there and done that. Plaza, San Francisco, Rabe Anito, and then coming on to CAI of late. Looks like his run in this international competition will stretch at least another couple weeks. Fran Perlo saying that there's a little congestion coming in the schedule. How about Hamilton? Guerra collect. That was one of his easier saves of the day. Pendiente was a little worried about 15 matches between mid-February and start of April. I have to worry about 2 more. They are going to move on to the quarterfinals in this competition. And they'll hope, dream to be Panama's furthest qualifying team if they can get by Kansas City or Toluca in the next round. Endo lifting for Boyd. Eric came out. Looked like he got a piece of that. Negrete led out as far as Barrow. Morrow for Hamilton. Get there. Out by Avila, who came in final 20 minutes. of Simon. 2 minutes added time. Yves. Toronto claims they weren't overconfident. Certainly there were all kinds of mitigating factors to what's going to be a disappointing burnout in the 2019 Champions League. The loss of some major players, including last year's Golden Ball winner, the irreplaceable Atomic Ant. Even without Sebastian Giovinco and Josie Altidore, this is a team that was favored entering the tie. And the counterattacking prowess of CAI at home, an unfamiliar artificial surface in the heat and humidity of Panama, simply proved too much for Toronto to overcome on the night. It's been a well-played 2 legs by Panamanian side. Don't call it an upset. Independiente are going on to the quarterfinal with a convincing 5-1 aggregate win over Toronto FC. And last year's finalists are out in the round of 16. There are many in the region who would have doubted that CAI would make their way through in their first Champions League appearance ever. But a 4-0 win at home, sending a small but vibrant stadium into a frenzy, was enough to put all the pressure on Toronto. By the time they had made it to BMO Field in the cold, all they needed was that 1 goal in the second half to put the final nail into Toronto and into that coffin. And Toronto's Champions League campaign is over. 4-0 win at home for CAI, a 1-1 draw on the road, enough to seal their way through. They'll face either Sporting Kansas City of Major League Soccer in the United States or the Liga MX side from Mexico, Toluca. It's 3-0 Sporting KC in that match, where the quarterfinals begin next week. For our entire team in Toronto, Mike Watts saying so long. The aggregate finishes in this round of 16 tie. Independiente of Panama 5, Toronto FC of Canada 1. Good night.